Greetings and welcome to the 9th, I think it is, episode of Morrowind Modding Interviews. We're coming back from a 2-week hiatus, and with me today is Jack, author of a number of companion mods for both Morrowind and Skyrim. And, well, thank you for agreeing to be here today.
Thank you for having me.
Right away, we're going to start out with a few basic questions. The first of which is, when did you first stop playing Morrowind and the Elder Scrolls in general?
I think I started playing Morrowind about 2004, 2005. I got the original game without the expansions. Played for a bit, put it away, found the GOTY version in the store, reinstalled it, played for it, and had a question, wasn't official, so I got into modding. I actually started TES Arena. Played that a little bit, then I played Daggerfall a little bit. And I played Morrowind for quite a while.
Now, how did you come up with your forum name? You have the name of Jack, I believe, and is there a particular story behind that name?
Years ago, a friend of mine wrote a story, and he had a mob type organization called the Chikura. I liked the name, so I used that when I used to visit BBS's. When I got involved in Morrowind, I shortened it to Jack because I had a couple of questions as to my gender back in the day. I had one young lady confused as to if I was male or female.
Oh yes, that can happen often, an awful lot with forum names. General principle is if it ends with an A, it's probably female, but that's not always true.
No, it's not. That my writing style didn't lend itself to particular gender stereotypes, I guess you say.
Well, going on to a different topic, what was your first mod and how did you get the idea for it?
Started, sort of like a lot of people, I did personal mod. Changing things I didn't like about the game, like my character appearance, small things like that. First release mod was the Increased Dark Brotherhood's attack. And I did that for a forum request. Somebody wanted more attacks, and at the time I did a little bit about programming, so I figured I'd take a shot at it.
Now, what draws you to modding video games?
When I play a video game, I see things that I want to change. And I either look for mods that change those aspects, or I find out to do it myself. With Morrowind, playing the main quest is kind of lonely and boring, so I made me a companion for it. And I figured others might enjoy her as well. Essentially, I just find an aspect of the game I don't like and change it, or find somebody's already changed it.
Now, since you've mentioned it, you've done a fair number of companion mods in the past, like Morte and Jasmine. Can you talk a bit about the creation process behind such projects?
It starts with an idea. Basically, I think of a character concept, name, age, race, things like that, basic personality. I start writing, and the character goes from there. Morte was based on the Planescape Torment game. We had a similar NPC. I remembered him, how funny he was, and I figured he'd be funny in the Morrowind too.
Now, does a lot of planning go into the process for creating a companion mod like that?
Planning? It depends. One quest I did for Jasmine, I actually sat down with Word and planned out the quest so I would know when I wrote it what should happen when. But the writing, no. Quest? Yeah, because I want to make sure I know what should happen, and if it's a multiple branch quest, I want to be able to determine what happens if the player does this, or the player does that, or the player does something else. It really just depends on what aspect I'm doing. Dialogue writing? Not really. Quest? Yes.
Alright, and multi-branch questing, you don't really see a whole lot of it in the Elder Scrolls, really, but it is something that you have to do a lot of planning for, especially if you have a lot of endings that also go along with it. Have you done a whole lot of multi-branch questing for Skyrim as well as Morrowind?
Skyrim, I haven't done any questing yet for. Right now, I'm just getting different aspects of them written and planned out. Morrowind, I think I did one. I remember one quest. There were 3 or 4 different outcomes, depending on what you chose to do. For Skyrim, Morte, I have a quest idea, but it's likely to be only 1 or 2 branches.
Yeah, I imagine it's probably a little harder to do multi-branch quest design when you have to calculate voice acting and all that.
Yeah, well, Skyrim, the process is a little different than Morrowind. In Morrowind, it's just a matter of checking quest variables, basically checking the stats of the quest. Skyrim, it's more checking. But yeah, definitely with the extra voice acting, yeah, to take that into account too.
Sort of going into that, you've made companion mods now for both Skyrim and Morrowind. And from your experience, which do you prefer making companion mods for? Is there, for an example, is there a established scripting package for Skyrim companions, like there is for Morrowind with Grumpy's companions? And does that make it easier to make companions for Skyrim?
In Skyrim, there isn't an exact package like Grumpy's where you can just plug it in and change some variables or names. But I did found a very good tutorial that walks you through how to make a voice companion for Skyrim. As far as making companions, I say it's about the same. Both Morrowind and Skyrim have their advantages and disadvantages. In Morrowind, it's easier to write dialogue. You just write it and you're done. Skyrim, you have a limit on how many characters lower limit on how many characters put per line, and you have to take into account if you're going to use a voice actor or not. But the process is pretty much the same for both.
That's kind of interesting, since Skyrim sort of came out of the box with a lot of companion features, since it has companions like Lydia built in already.
Well, I hadn't really noticed a whole lot of difference to it aside from the combat abilities. In Skyrim, you have more control over what type of combat package your NPC will use. Are they an archer? Are they two-handed user? Are they one-handed user? Are they thief? Do they avoid combat? Morrowind, it's either your NPC is an archer, or they use melee. There is no in between. In Skyrim, you could say if you use your bow until they get into melee range. In Morrowind, it's use your bow, they get in melee range, they back up. The one thing I like about Skyrim over Morrowind is you have more granular control over your companion's action than you do in Morrowind.
Yeah, I imagine that's a result of Skyrim's superior AI.
I don't know if I call it superior, but it's definitely more complicated. It allows more possibilities.
Now, sort of jumping to a bit of a different question. Have you been influenced by any non-Elder Scrolls games when you mod? Obviously, Morte is from Planescape Torment.
I can't pick any particular game, but I've been playing RPGs since the early 80s, and I think a lot of the experience does influence me when I mod. But as for a particular game outside of Planescape, no.
Do you listen to any music while you mod? And if so, what do you like to listen to?
I have a playlist of Native American music. It's a lot of the wooden flutes, guitars, some chanting. It really soothes me when I'm trying to mod and helps me think of what I'm writing.
Now, this is a user-submitted question. What takes up more time, modding or being a Wolflore admin?
Definitely modding. We're a great team of Wolflore, and I rarely have to do any admin duties. I have great users. Definitely modding.
Since I mentioned Wolflore, can you go into a bit of detail about the Wolflore website, what its purpose is?
Its focus is adult gamers who want to come together and discuss our pastime. This is our hobby, this is something we enjoy, and we discuss it with others who enjoy too. We do host adult mods, but that's not our focus. It's basically a forum where anybody can come in, put the feet up, and relax. Kind of like Cheers. Stick around long enough, everybody knows your name.
Yes, I haven't been over to Wolflore that often, but it does seem like it has a fair number of work-in-progress threads and mod discussions.
Yeah, we do host mods, but I don't have an actual mod hosting utility, let's say a place like TES Alliance or the Simulation Lab. But we do have quite a few people that will host their work in progress there. Mainly mods that wouldn't necessarily be featured on the officials because of the content. It's very hard to discuss adult material on officials because we obviously can't provide download links and we can't provide screenshots.
Oh yes, but I think the Nexus supports adult files too, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. But the Nexus is a great hosting site, but to me it's more of a commercial hosting site in that where you don't have to pay to download or participate. It's very large and can feel very not sterile. It seems very institutional, very corporate, very aloof. It doesn't have that homey feel that you can get on a smaller website like Wolflore. Wolf, as I said before, you stick around Wolf long enough, everybody knows who you are. Nexus, you feel like a little fish in the big one.
Oh yes, the Nexus over the years has sort of become this giant sort of multi-network spanning website, which is interesting because it originally started out as a very small Morrowind modding website back in the early 2000s. I've noticed you haven't really uploaded a whole lot of your mods to the Nexus. Is there any particular reason why?
Bandwidth issues right now. We have a limited amount of bandwidth per month, but that will probably change next week, switching ISPs. So when that gets resolved, I'll be moving my whole catalog to the Nexus.
Oh yes, I understand your pain. I'm on a limited bandwidth connection. I have satellite internet. We can only use so much bandwidth per month, really, and then we're just on our own.
We're on cellular, and we have to pay for anything we go over our limit. And it gets expensive if we go too far over.
Oh yeah, we get hit with fees if we go over our download limit here as well.
But the new ISP has no bandwidth limits, so definitely moving more stuff over in the future.
Moving on to more modding related questions. Is there any particular mod that you're most happy / proud of out of the ones you've released so far?
Jasmine, definitely. I put the most effort into her and the most work I could have put in. It started in 2008, and the last update was 2012, 2011, about 3 or 4 years into her.
It definitely shows that she's one of the more complete companions, I would say, sort of like Julian to a certain extent.
Actually, I got the idea from Julian and him as well a prop. I like the idea behind Julian, but I wanted something different, so I wrote Jasmine.
It's certainly a very impressive mod. I did enjoy playing it when we featured it in one of the episodes for Morrowind Modding Showcases. Seems like there's a lot there.
I wanted to thank you for showcasing her. My wife and I appreciated it. See, in your Morte version was really funny. Had a lot of fun writing them too.
Oh yeah, I really like taking random screenshots with Morte, and it's just, it's funny to have a floating companion, a floating skull companion like that.
I'm glad you enjoyed him. Like I said, I definitely had fun writing him. Like he was the only companion mod I ever done that I didn't take seriously.
Sort of going back to a question about the Skyrim/Morrowind differences. Since you've used both the creation kits for Morrowind and Skyrim, which one did you like better? Did you like the construction set for Morrowind better, or the creation kit for Skyrim?
A bit of a toss-up. It was easier for me to understand how the Morrowind CS worked. But now that I'm getting used to the Skyrim CA, it's a bit of a toss-up. It's easier to do some things in Morrowind, but Skyrim has more opportunities, abilities. But unfortunately, that makes it more complex.
Now, if you could make a single change to the capabilities of either the construction set or the creation kit, what would it be exactly?
With the construction set, I would break up dialogue. That whole singular database idea is a pain in the butt. In Skyrim, you can create many different smaller databases for your dialogue. Morrowind, everything, and I do mean everything, goes into one. And if you don't set your filters right, we'll have NPCs saying the wrong thing. Skyrim, I can do with one filter what might take 3 or 4 in Morrowind.
Oh yeah, Morrowind's dialogue system is kind of like a stack database, where it just searches through and finds the first entry that fits, and then it just shoots it out.
Yep. Top to bottom. It's a real pain when you're trying to do choice dialogue where you have to continue a line. Well, that's one thing I really hate about Morrowind. Let's say you're writing a paragraph, 2 paragraphs worth of dialogue for an NPC. You have to break it up and use a continuous. Skyrim, you have up to, I think, 5 or 6 lines where you can have, well, as soon as they say the top line, they'll go automatically to the next line, and then to the next line, and to the next line. And you can link topics. Whereas in Morrowind, you had to have the topic already existing. If you want to ask somebody about the background, it was you have to put something in the background topic. In Skyrim, you can say you can have an actual conversation with an NPC. You could have the NPC say, "I'm a farmer," and you can have the player say, "Well, what do you farm?" And the NPC can respond with, "I farm cabbage." That's a very simple example, but that's one of the complexities that Skyrim introduces. Fortunately, it actually does make it a little more difficult to write for it sometimes.
Oh yeah, the way Morrowind breaks up paragraphs is particularly annoying. As a quest modder, I've done that continue thing 1,000 times, it seems. So like, if choice equals 1, if choice equals 2, you got to keep labeling more choices in the results box and creating more and more dialogue entries. It gets a bit of a mess.
I've been tripped up before with choice boxes. I put the wrong particular choice, had to figure out, okay, what did I do wrong? So yeah, that part, when it comes to testing, that part is really annoying.
Now, what do you think about the other Elder Scrolls games in comparison to Morrowind?
Reading and Daggerfall were kind of some stick, but considering the time they came out, I'm not really surprised. Tried Oblivion, but it seemed too generic to me. I really got into it. Skyrim is, to me, it is as complex as Morrowind as far as the interactions go. In a lot of ways, but in some ways it's more simplistic. It's more linear, it feels like, in Skyrim than it does Morrowind. But to me, Morrowind and Skyrim are great sandboxes. If you don't like a particular aspect, they come out that changes it, fine with it does.
Now, you sort of had experience with both the Morrowind modding community and the Skyrim modding community now. Is there anything you prefer with the Morrowind modding community, perhaps over the Skyrim modding community? Or are they both, well, fairly friendly?
They both seem fairly friendly. Anytime I have a question, I can usually get an answer to it. And I've had both communities. Anytime I have had a question, somebody will answer it. I've gotten a lot of help from both communities.
I've just sort of been curious, as someone who hasn't really played a whole lot of Skyrim mods. The Skyrim modding community just seems so massive.
It is. It's easy to get lost in there. But like the Morrowind community, it does have some great individuals that know this stuff. But I can definitely see how a new modder or somebody new to playing mods can easily get lost there. Morrowind's been out for 12 years now, so this community has matured. Skyrim's is still kind of that flux stage. But I think as it goes on and people move to other things, it'll definitely condense.
Yeah, the Morrowind modding community is a very tight-knit community, but still pretty accepting overall to newer members. And the Skyrim modding community, for those of us who only have modded Morrowind, it's kind of hard to imagine that same tight-knit closeness that we have here in Morrowind.
Morrowind's definitely so special. The Skyrim, I can't say if it's going to become the same way or not, because with Morrowind, you had something unique. There was an alien-looking landscape. The houses were, well, not exactly new, were first shown in such a way that you can join them and basically dictate where they went. Skyrim, even though it's advanced a lot, it's still somewhat generic. Not as bad as Oblivion, but still somewhat generic, so I can definitely see how the community will be different. It appeals to a demographic that Morrowind does, I think.
Sort of going into that, what do you think makes the Morrowind modding community so vibrant after more than a decade?
Morrowind is a great sandbox. You're not limited to what was shipped. There's been many of mods released that either adds to or changes certain aspects of it. And the community is great. As you said before, and those close-knit is very accepting of numbers. Anybody that comes in with a question can usually get it answered, or find a mod that does what they want to do. I think that, plus it being so easy to mod, relatively, it keeps the community strong.
And I'm just sort of curious, but are there any modding projects you're working on now for Skyrim? And I don't know, would you perhaps be tempted to come back to modding Morrowind in the future?
Skyrim, I'm still working on more. As for Morrowind, I've been thinking about finishing up Jasmine and the Blood Moon. Since I haven't actually played Blood Moon, I'd have to play through the quest first. And I thought about doing more Morte and Morrowind. Other than that, I don't really have any plans.
So do you think in the future you'll be focusing primarily on Skyrim modding projects?
That's in the mod what I play. Since I'm playing Skyrim right now, that's what I'm focusing on. My wife just started Morrowind again, so I may go back and after I get my mod list set up again. Well, it's possible. I won't say it's not going to happen, but it's possible. I'm not having too much fun with Morte.
Oh, that's Morte for Skyrim, right?
Yeah, sorry, Morte for Skyrim.
It is just a little bit confusing since there's Morte for Skyrim and there's Morte for Morrowind.
There almost was a Morte for Oblivion, but I couldn't get the eyeballs and the head mesh I needed. And without that, the skull and eyeballs just wouldn't be the same.
Oh yes, definitely. Now, do you think there's anything the Morrowind modding community should be doing in order to continue to expand and grow in the coming years?
Just keep doing what they're doing. Accept new members, make new mods, come up with new ideas. People will come. It's it's one of those things. If somebody tries to force something to backfire or to fizzle out, but I think right now the community is about as strong as can be expected. And well, I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon, as long as people still play and mod the game. But I do think things like Open Morrowind and Skywind and More Oblivion will definitely help introduce new people to the game.
Since you mentioned it, I'm kind of curious. You think Skywind will bring new people to Morrowind? And not just act as a sort of replacement for Morrowind?
I'll never replace Morrowind. But if people play Skywind and start thinking, what was the original like? It's possible they'll come to Morrowind. But I don't see Skywind replacing Morrowind because the Skyrim engine itself appeals to a different demographic. I would dare say a younger demographic.
Oh yes, it has. It has often been said that Skyrim really isn't even in the same genre exactly as Morrowind. Morrowind's more of a hardcore D&D style RPG, and Skyrim is more of an action RPG with focus on action.
I can definitely see that in the vanilla games. Morrowind, you were kicked off the boat, given some money, and left to your own devices. And Skyrim is a little more hand-holding at the beginnings, especially with whichever side you choose to follow, the Imperial Stormcloaks. The game tells you, okay, go here, do this, do that. Morrowind tells you how to do things, and you're on your own. So I can definitely see why the comparisons were made between the two. But Skyrim has the ability to be more of a hardcore RPG like Morrowind with mods. Out of the box, it's definitely more of an action RPG.
Now, is there any advice you'd like to give to budding new Morrowind modders, or possibly even budding new Skyrim modders out there looking to release their first mod?
As been said before, and I'll say it again, start small. Don't try to make your magnum opus the first mod you release, because you will more than likely fail or get burned out. Find a small aspect of the game you want to change, figure out how the tools work, read tutorials, ask questions, release something small, and then go from there. My first mod was just a script change, and as I got more comfortable with the tools, I started writing more complex mods.
Oh yes, I think most first-time modders start either with a tweak or gameplay mod, or possibly a house mod. Well, except I guess for Danae, who did a massive house mod and is still working on that, I believe.
Well, we've been trying making a house mod and trying to make a total conversion. I've seen Danae's work and it's amazing. But even she started small and then worked up from there. But I've seen too many people come on the forums saying they want to make these huge mods that could basically on a scale of a total conversion, and it doesn't go anywhere because they don't understand the process, they don't understand the tools, and ask other people to do it, and other people are like, no, we have our own projects. So start small. A quick NPC mod, a quick script change, some new dialogue, a house mod. And once you understand how the process works and the tools work, then you can start on your total conversion projects.
Oh yes, modding is a learning experience. It really helps to just do a mod that focuses on one particular aspect of the game, then move on to another mod that focuses on another aspect of the game, and then you just gradually learn all the processes, and you can make something bigger then.
Yeah, more for Skyrim, I actually started out pretty small. And as I got more comfortable with the tools, I started adding new things to them. But I had an advantage because I wrote a companion mod for Fallout 3. I wrote a Jasmine over there. And the GEC and the CK are similar enough that it was easy for me to go from one to the other. I already understood a little bit how dialogue worked. I understood a little bit how scripting works, so it's just a matter of figuring out how the differences between Skyrim and the GEC.
Alright, now, finally, is there anyone in the community you'd like to give a shout out to?
Beside the community as a whole, probably Dragon32 and Milky Dark. For the Dragon for work on keeping the Mlocks database updated. I know it's a huge time, and it takes them a while to get that updated. And Milky Dark and Film we're both working on the new Morrowind project patch to review what's already been done, so we will know what we could keep and what need to be changed. And that's a huge benefit for the new patch coming out.
Oh yes, Dragon32 in particular, he's kind of like the community's tech support. I always see him on the Nexus helping people out with various technical problems.
Yeah, he's a great guy. I'm glad he does that. Because being an older game, sometimes Morrowind refuses to run properly on the newer systems like Windows 7, Windows 8. And Mlocks is just a very useful program, especially for people who aren't very used to modding Morrowind. I know Skyrim has the loot, which will automatically sort mods, but Morrowind we don't have that, so we have to rely on Mlocks. And of course, Mlocks has a database, and if that's not updated, it doesn't serve a purpose.
Yeah, definitely sounds like a lot of work.
I can't imagine how he does it. I'm glad he does.
Well, I think that pretty much wraps up all the questions I have for you, so thanks again for agreeing to do this interview.
Well, thanks for having me, and thank you for doing these interviews and the showcases. I think both of these are a really good way to showcase how more modding is alive and kicking.
Oh yes, and hopefully it'll bring new people into modding Morrowind as well. Or at least that's the dream anyway.
It could be a lot of fun. It'll be frustrating at times, but it'll be a lot of fun. Very good creative outlet. And it's free. If you have the game, you can mod it.
And definitely. And eventually you can probably create anything you can possibly imagine. Eventually.
Yeah, we'll see how open more modding shakes out. But I can definitely see new possibilities coming down the pipeline.
Alright, that pretty much concludes our interview with Jack. It's kind of interesting to get the perspective from someone who has moved on to Skyrim modding, and is still modding Morrowind to some extent. Next week we're supposed to have Logan, if we can get him, otherwise it might be another week before we can do an interview. But hopefully not. We've had probably enough hiatuses for a while, and my goal is to try and keep this a weekly series, but we'll see. In any case, I'll see you all next time.